right, everybody. Doing an Ask Me Anything. Questions that have come my way over the last couple of weeks here. Jumping in. Few news updates. But let's put them all here in the notes. How are you serving the community now? What's happening right now? So, what I've aimed to do over the years is pick segments of the community to be involved with and serve. And so in this current season, it's been focused on Little League T-ball, so with my brother and I, we coach. So that's, again, an interesting commitment, which is, again, two practices a week, two games a week. That's the way, we're serving the community right now. In the past, I've been involved with, prison work, with volunteering in prison or the battered women's shelter for another season, or doing some of the church stuff. We're doing more church stuff on the South Side. We've done stuff with the homeless. We've done stuff with the orphans from Central America. But anyway, this one happens to be with the Little League baseball. And it is a sobering reality that I think as I'm getting older, there's a sobering reality that I will not be able to do all the things that I want to do in my lifetime. I'll be able to do some of them, but with for whatever reason, I think the way I'm wired is I'm wired to want to do a lot of things with my life. But like the idea of the impact that I would like to have in the prison setting, and then the impact I would like to have in the homeless setting, in the prison I'd like to have in the battered women's shelter setting, and the impact I would like to have in the community, meeting families. Like we just have a finite amount of time. And anyway, so right now, the way we're serving the community is with the Little League baseball. All right, number 2. What do you want in life? I think that's a interesting one. I think I think I would say I'm blessed that in many ways I have what I want. I mean, if you think through life, I think there's a blessing that comes with that. I think there's a responsibility that comes with that. If God's taking care of you, then there's a responsibility, trust given to you that you're called into using that to build up other people and to use your privilege as an opportunity to extend and empower other people. So anyway, what do I want in life? I think I think that do that often as a coach oriented around success. I think it's something I think about. I have a lot of it. I think, it's like what other people want. We want security. I want connection, meaningful connections with people around me. I want peace on the inside, joy that radiates inside and outside. I want people who know me the best to respect me and admire me the most. I don't want that to ever get twisted, where the only people that really respect me and admire me are people who don't really know me. Don't like that. So, but yeah, I think other achievements, again, they're fun. I think it's good. But there's as the Ecclesiastes writer put down, he described it as everything is meaningless, or this vapor, or this it's transient. Like it lasts for a minute, it lasts for a second, and I think I can feel that way. So question number 3. It's a kind of different one. It came up. Friend of mine, we go to the gym together. He asked, would I take steroids? Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. I think it's more of the purpose behind it. And even as I think Joe Rogan has, he's owned him being on not steroids, but I guess TRT, the testosterone replacement therapy, and he's been really upfront about that. And it's a conversation that's come up among people who lift weights and are into fitness and what you can do to have an additional advantage. Even people who are not competing at any kind of level, but people who just would want to maximize the potential of their physique. I just don't see the point to a lot of that. I think about people even the potential of having, rock hard abs. And it's like, what would be the fruit or the benefit of that? Especially if like from that Christian lens, it's not like I'm going to be rocking those abs and be putting them out to be seen over spring break or the summertime, like for the most part, hey, we're gonna be modest and covered up. So it's not like there's a flex. Again, I already have the most incredible woman on the planet that I'm married to. So she's already committed to me for a lifetime. So it's just like there's not another woman out there to impress, much less there's not a man out there to impress a show. So anyway, all of that to say, to the steroid question, nah, don't see myself messing with steroids. Next question. Do you still play basketball? I did this past Saturday, and it was and it was horrible to arrive at a place where you're scrubbing, where you're making no meaningful impact on the court. It's certainly a good for the ego to not get caught up on what I can no longer do and to no longer have an impact. Not even with next level players. I mean, we're talking about players that are just, again, league players at best. But I mean, it was the first two games getting blisters on my two big toes, and it's like torn blisters, not even just the bubble blisters, but they had already formed and had already torn within the first two games, and it was like jumping was difficult. And so anyway, all that to say is I do play basketball, but it's nothing to be proud of, and it's more of something to laugh about. So there we go. That's number 4. Question number 5 is, what are you afraid of? This is a good one. I'm going to have to think a minute on this one. What are you afraid of? All of the thoughts that are coming to me are like, they seem to be corny self-help thoughts of like, it can't be, it can't be like just not reaching my potential. It can't be that. It's not death. It's, maybe it is something oriented about potential. I think it's, I think it's waste. I don't want to waste my time, my effort, my energy, the talent, the little bit of talent that I've given, the responsibility that's passed my way. I don't want to waste. So I think that's the big one that I'm afraid of. Number 6. Do you mentor men? Still do that. We still do that. Still involved with mentoring men, especially spiritually speaking. Helping people to know the basics of how to be a godly man is a big part of who I am and what I do. That's one of those things that if people asked for that, it's hard for me to imagine a situation and setting where I'm not involved in being a mentor, in pouring out that which has been poured into me. I'm so grateful for the people who poured into me, but I do. So if you know somebody who's looking for that Christian mentor, that spiritual mentor. Would love to connect and be that for people out there. Question number 7. This is about the streaming service. Who is your streaming service? Who do you stream with? So there's 2 streaming services that I use. One is Restream, that is able to put this stream not just on YouTube, but also on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on a few other places that I'm spacing on Twitch as well. All right. What's sad about life? That's a good one. I think if you heard the story of how people who grew up poor didn't realize that they were poor, and they had to almost be taught that they were, what poverty was, and then almost to be informed that they kind of didn't have what other people did have, and I think that experience, right? I think like the sadness of not having whatever. It might better be like regular family dinners around the table early on. Like you didn't know, like you were missing out because your life was regular to you. Your life was normal to you. So there's a sadness that comes with people realize that there's other experiences out there that they'll never get to experience. So I think about, whether it's a father showing up to whatever, my basketball games, like that season of my life is over and that's never coming back. So like there's a permanence to not having certain experiences. And I'm one of those people that I don't believe I have to experience everything. My wife and I, we don't have kids. We don't know if that's our path or our journey. And I don't think that I'm missing out by not experiencing parenthood. Like that's not something it's not the way I view it. I don't think I have to experience being locked up in prison because I need the full experience of life. No, I don't think or see that. So, there is a sadness about life that you miss out on, that you see a number of other people, especially when it's not like necessarily the exception, but you see a number of other people had blessings and privileges that you did not have. I think that's when I think sadness can creep into my life, for sure. What is difficult to watch? I think that's going to be. I think that's that the idea of like shows or movies. I think it's for me. It's like struggle and suffering. When I see that with people, it's difficult to. Even like, so the war movies, when there's like, again, a leg cut off or arm chopped off, or they're shot or wounded, and it's just acting. It's not even, again, reality TV. It's just acting. I think for me, it's difficult to process and watch that. I just like, it's too much for me to be able to process. All right. Number 10. Are you still active in therapy? And the answer is yes. I got a couple of sessions a couple of weeks back with my therapist. I thought it was good. I think I'll combine this with question number 11, which is, what are you learning in therapy? And I'm going to explain something and maybe this will apply to some of you. And as I keep kind of this record, where it's called altruistic contribution, and I'm going to pull that up. Because I would like to give you a definition. You know what? Those two words aren't found very much, it looks like, from Google. Okay, let me tell you the backstory behind this. So, The story goes, when I worked at Nationwide and I was onboarding as a supervisor in the call center. And, we went to Columbus, Ohio, where the leadership team had taken, this pretty extensive survey to assess our motivations, how we're wired. And it's supposed to help you to understand like your career path, your ambitions, how you tick. My assessment came back as and it explained that my primary motivation is altruistic contribution. And it came with a warning that no job or no activity would ever be good enough for somebody who's wired like me. And it's and it's completely true in how I assess life. For example, when I'm helping, as a supervisor at Nationwide, I was helping representatives who answered the phone to increase their efficiencies or to increase their quality that they were delivering to the customers. Now, of all the things in life to be making a difference, I'm helping frontline representatives to help their quality in their customer service. Of all the things that my talent, my gifts, my resources were being used for, it was used to help in a customer service setting. The reason that's challenging for somebody with altruistic contribution is you think, well, I could be helping the homeless. I could be helping those in prison. I could be helping those at the battered women's shelter. I could be helping orphans. I could be helping widows. I could be helping people who are going through a whole lot more challenges than just not delivering good enough service. So, and even when I've been involved with different segments in the community, prison, battered women's shelter, orphans from Central America, or doing some of the homeless stuff here in San Antonio, in some ways, if you're wired with altruistic contribution, then it's almost not enough. Like they're dismissed. But for example, if I'm serving the homeless in San Antonio, but these are wealthier than maybe the homeless in a country that's doing a whole lot worse than the United States. But if I'm serving maybe the homeless in this other country that's worse off than the United States, but I could be helping those who are even worse than that country. And again, it's this constant situation where you're like, well, when Jesus used the phrase, the least of these in Matthew chapter 25, when he talked about the sheep and the goats, and he talked about these 6 qualities of, I was hungry, you gave me food. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was naked, you gave me clothes. I was sick, you looked after me. I was in prison, you came to visit me. I was a stranger, you brought me in. So you have these 6 different qualities, or these behaviors that Jesus focused on. And he said, whatever you did for these, the least of these, you did for me. And whatever you did not do, again, the sin of omission, whatever you did not do for the least of these 6 categories that he had given, you did not do for me. So you're guilty, but because of what you did not do, not just, again, some evil stuff, but even this higher calling and how we treat people that we might consider less than, those who have less to give to us. So in therapy, it's an interesting conversation came up because I'm wired to want to consider other ways to be able to give and serve and help. And sometimes they can feel like, well, if I'm helping the battered women's shelter here in San Antonio, but there's women and children being trafficked in the sex trade, like, what about those people? So it's like I'm helping here, but there's another level of people in need that I'm not helping. And again, it's not, again, I think it could sound like overly egotistical, it sound overly narcissistic, but the reality is that is the way I'm wired. Is you think about, you could be doing something for other people who are even less privileged than whoever you're serving right now. So in therapy, I think even the conversation came up. It was like, do you think there's a value in continuing that language of the least, the least of these, as opposed to just, people who are less. And then within a Christian paradigm, you also think about, I can help people not just for this lifetime, but for eternity, right? When we talk about salvation and heaven and the afterlife, I'm not just helping them to have one meal, I'm helping them to have the everlasting meal at the feast that never ends. If you were able to help somebody on that Christian level. So there's all of these ways that you think you could serve people, that you have like eternity as this great equalizer of an experience. So anyway, it's some of the things I'm learning, I think, in a weird way from my therapeutic experience. One of the biggest struggles comes when I have these successes that if I've achieved something that I've wanted to achieve for a long time, whether it's get some of the books written, as you can see, you can see the marriage book here. You can see the speaking book up there. There we go, up there. And then you could see the coaching book right over here. So those are his ambitions, to be able to write books, but then even accomplishing some of my goals, there's an element of, well, what's the point of all this? Like, you can make a whole lot of money. You could write your books. You could achieve your goals. You could be fit. You could have good connections. You could have meaningful relationships with your family. And what's the point of all of this? And there's an element of, in some ways, and we're all different, but it's from me in my own journey. I've achieved a lot of what I want to achieve in life. I've done a lot of what I wanted to do in life, and there's a sadness that comes from that most of my life moving forward, it's doing a lot of the same that I've already done. And the challenge then is not to not let myself get bored with doing some of the basic things that have helped me to do what I've already done. And then some of the other things that I haven't done, like, is there a point to it? So example is, I'm not a best-selling author. I'm not a New York Times bestseller. I'm a regular author. Now, if I became a New York Times bestseller, would it give me anything that I don't already have? So examples. What would it actually give me? Well, it'll give me maybe more opportunities to speak to more people, but I could already speak to people. Okay, maybe it'll give me more respect and admiration that I don't have from strangers, but I already have respect and admiration from friends and family that mean the most to me. So does the stranger's admiration really mean anything? Does it mean anything in a significant way? And the answer is like, no. So anyway, all of this is like, you see like this, how meaningless some things in life can be. So that's what I'm seeing and observing in therapy. Next question is, what are your weaknesses in leadership? I'm going to shout out my boy, Andrew Alanis, for giving me this question. What are your weaknesses in leadership? There has to be many. Maybe it's I think patience, I think is a significant one. I think being patient while I'm involved in a string of activities can be difficult. So to be gentle, patient, humble while you're trying to explain something and not be short or not be condescending, I think it's a really important thing. The other thing is, naturally I want to do a whole lot in my own life, and I can sometimes spread myself more thin and not be effective as I want to be. So there could be a lack of depth. I'll even talk about with the books stuff, and from achieving with what I've written. So like, there's just responsibilities in bringing it to completion with writing the second and third books, or even the first book. The first book on marriage, like being able to effectively execute the audio version of the book, or even to create a hard copy of the book. It's not difficult or impossible. It just takes purposeful effort to be able to make that happen. So focus is a strength, but I also see it as a weakness. I got to also be mindful of arrogance in that comes with some of the achievements or strengths in my world. I certainly have a lot of weaknesses, but when your strengths are communication, it can be something to hide behind the strength and not reveal the challenges, because people see the communication. So people see the communication, and then they might think that I could do a bunch of other things. I can't do a whole lot of things. I can communicate effectively, but many other things I'm below average. So um, those are a few things. All right, question number 13. How are you feeling about church? How are you feeling about church? How are you? If you're watching this, I'm curious how people are doing out there. I'm doing good. I feel good about church. I think I when I look at flawed characters in the Bible, it does give me perspective, gives me sobriety about church and the experience. I in a perfect world, you have people who've never made mistakes with any of their past lives, but in reality, we kind of know that people done foolish things along their way and along their path. But yeah, and I don't know details about a lot of what goes on. But I still, again, if I have my eyes on God, on what matters, and it's on Jesus, who matters. He's that rock and refuge in that safe place. Then whatever I'm going through, then I think it's or whatever the church is going through in the present, then I think it's ultimately not going to dissuade me from wanting to be all in for God. So now there's situations to work through. I think there's different opinions of church models and how do you do a midweek service? Is a midweek service mandatory, recommended? What category is it in? Is there an effective way to communicate to repurpose midweek services to do another God glorifying activity during that window? These are all these questions that come up in my mind. I think are relevant to process. Next question, which is, if you had all the money in the world, I think that means like most of the money in the world are billions or trillions of dollars, what would you do? A lot of what I'm doing now. So I'd probably be doing streams like this, probably trying to make an impact in the community with doing the T-ball stuff with my family and with my brother and my niece and having an impact with those families. We have a game tomorrow morning as well. But yeah, I mean, I would time for friends, time for family. It would be time to learn, time to grow. I don't think I would vacation more than I vacation now, which is a blessing. Again, in a weird way, I like the house that we live in. I like the opportunity to live stream if I want to live stream, to go to the gym if I want to go to the gym, to the restaurants that we have around here, to experiment if I want to experiment. There's a lot of options that I have right here, so I'm content. So, question number 15. Did you see that Andrew Tate is free? I did. Let me pull up him on Twitter here. We'll come back to LeBron James in a minute. I thought he had a video. Did he not? Maybe I need to refresh it. Oh, there he goes. So saw Andrew Tate free. In some ways, I expected him to be in worse shape. Again, if that's triggering to you, whatever. But or you could turn away or whatever. Man with that shirt, you see there's a lot of those in life and on the internet. But whatever his diet he was able to have, I think there was some post about him having an off diet in there. I mean, his build is solid for being in a Romanian prison. I mean, one of the things that they had him saying was he did the was reading the Quran and doing push-ups in there. But looks like he maintained a significant build while he's in there. So power to him for that. Somebody asked me if I follow Andrew Tate. I think I should certainly aim to keep up with what's happening with him. I think it's culturally relevant. Even that 45-second video, it's been exposed to 8.2 million people. And when you have that kind of influence, that kind of impact, then you think about as somebody who's involved with the community, serving families, involved with kids, you think he's going to have an impact on a generation of young men and young boys. And if you work with men, if you mentor men, then it's relevant. It's relevant. So I think he's culturally relevant. So there's a divide inside of me. There's been times when I'm like, I want to be updated on what's happening in culture so that I could speak to that and contextualize even the scriptures or that Christian perspective within culture. And there's other instances when I see the example of Paul the Apostle. Let's pull up that text real quick, and we'll look at this passage in Acts chapter 17. There's much conversation made about this text. Most of it goes in one direction, but I think there's a little bit more to it. So let's go to Acts chapter 17. We're going to read this story of Paul and the Areopagus. I'm saying that word wrong. Areopagus. There we go. Paul speaks to the leaders of Athens. Let me rewind a little bit. Okay. While Paul was waiting for them in Athens, he was greatly distressed to see that the city was full of idols. So he reasoned in the synagogue with both Jews and God-fearing Greeks, as well as in the marketplace day by day with those who happened to be there. A group of Epicurean and Stoic philosophers began a debate with him. Some of them asked, what is this babbler trying to say? Others remarked, he seems to be advocating foreign gods. They said this because Paul was preaching the good news about Jesus and the resurrection when they took him and brought him to a meeting of the Areopagus, where they said to him, may we know what this new teaching is that you are presenting? You are bringing some strange ideas to our ears. And we would like to know what they mean. All the Athenians and the foreigners who lived there spent their time doing nothing but talking about and listening to the latest ideas. Paul then stood up in the meeting of the Areopagus and said, people of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. For as I walked around and looked carefully at your objects of worship, I even found an altar with this inscription to an unknown God. So you are ignorant of the very thing that you worship, and this is what I'm going to proclaim to you. The God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth and does not live in temples built by human hands. And he is not served by human hands as if he needed anything. Rather, he himself gives everyone life and breath and everything else. From one man, he made all the nations, that they should inhabit the whole earth. And he marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their lands. God did this so that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from any one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being. As some of your own poets have said, we are his offspring. Therefore, since we are God's offspring, we should not think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone, an image made by human design and skill. In the past, God overlooked such ignorance, but now he commands all people everywhere to repent. For he has set a day when he will judge the world with justice by the man he has appointed. He has given proof of this to everyone by raising him from the dead. When they heard about the resurrection of the dead, some of them sneered, but others said, we want to hear you again on this subject. At that, Paul left the council. Some of the people became followers of Paul and believed. Among them was Dionysius, a member of the Areopagus, also a woman named Damaris, and a number of others. So the reason I wanted to bring up this passage, because some people have used this text as an example of somebody being aware of the culture or being aware of his surroundings to quote their poet, to talk about their idol, to mention what was relevant to them, to make the bridge or make that connection back to Jesus. So I'm bringing it up because after Acts chapter 17, of course, is Acts chapter 18. And as we see right here in chapter 18 is he goes to Corinth. Now, interestingly, when he gets to Corinth, I think I've only heard one person say this outright. But in Corinth, if we went to chapter 1, he has an interesting description of his approach in Corinth. And I'm going to have us look at that text here. It's going to be chapter 2, actually. So check it out. Verse 1. So it was with me, brothers and sisters, when I came to you. Again, read this, Acts chapter 18. I did not come with eloquence or human wisdom as I proclaimed to you the testimony about God. For I resolved to know nothing while I was with you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. Like, there's certain hyperbole in this, but think about that statement. When he was with the people in Corinth, he made a decision that he would know nothing while he was with them except Jesus Christ and him crucified. It has to be hyperbole, right? Has to be hyperbole, right? But let's take him at, maybe he's being hyperbolic. He's exaggerating. But imagine, though, if you just envision what it would be like where somebody was aiming to know nothing. So like his background as a tent maker, his experience growing up, like his resolution to know nothing except Jesus Christ and him crucified. So the detail that I never heard somebody express except one person, his name's Steve Johnson. He said, isn't it fascinating that if you looked at Athens, Paul, it wasn't just Christ and him crucified, but it was a little bit extra sauce. And he quoted even their own poet as he ultimately brought it back to Jesus. But in Paul's own description in his next stop on the journey from Athens to Corinth, at Corinth, when he's describing how he was there, it was almost, I'm going to empty myself of everything that I know and make the primary thing Jesus Christ and him crucified. I think it's a fascinating thing. So the tension in being aware of culture, but not bending and giving in to culture is there. So some people might cite Acts 17 as Paul was aware of culture and used the people's culture to make that bridge to Jesus. Other people might go, actually, he seemed to change that approach when he got to Corinth because it was just about Jesus Christ and him crucified. It wasn't about the extra poets. It wasn't about their idols. It wasn't about the culture. But it was about Jesus Christ and him crucified. So, all of that to say, there's still tension inside of me. Is it best to be aware of culture, what people are saying, what's happening? Is it best to be aware of what Andrew Tate and who he is and how he operates, what he teaches, what he stands for, so that we're aware of what the men are being exposed to so we can speak up and speak out in favor of what the scriptures have to say, so we can be aware of what they think, but then we're able to give them this context of what is best or better to think based on what the scriptures of the Bible have to say. So that there's that tension there. So yeah, I'm aware of him. He's a cultural icon. It's, at least now I see myself as being aware of that, him as a cultural icon, But of course, like he's certainly not even somebody I'm like following to emulate or imitate that's that Andrew Tate perspective. That also answers question number 17. All right, our last two questions are about the Lakers winning tonight. First time they got to 500, over 500 this whole season. It's been a struggle for him. So we'll go to King James over on Twitter. So LeBron said he's not gonna pay the $5. It's actually $8 to keep his blue check mark on Twitter. So I think what happened is Elon Musk announced, maybe we'll look this up here. Elon Musk, blue check. All right. The New York Times has an article. All right, let's go ahead and read it. Why not? Twitter's blue check apocalypse is upon us. Here's what to know. Elon Musk, Twitter's owner, is changing the platform's long-standing practice of verifying accounts. This has implications for a range of users. The blue check mark on Twitter has long conferred a special status. Only certain accounts, typically those of public figures whose identities were confirmed, have been bestowed the symbol. Now that's changing. Starting on Saturday, many Twitter accounts will lose the check mark under modifications being made by Elon Musk, the social media company's owner. Individual users must buy a subscription to Twitter's Blue service, which costs $8 a month to obtain the badge. Businesses that are currently unverified will have to pay $1,000 a month if they want to go checkmark verifying their accounts. About to collect $1,000 a month for a gold check. The move, which will help Twitter generate revenue by making certain features exclusive to subscribers, has implications for a range of users on the platform. Here's what to know. What does the change mean for Twitter users? For those of you who primarily use Twitter to follow celebrities and news sites, this policy change will affect what you see and read on the service. You may see fewer tweets from accounts you care about in your timeline, for instance, because individuals who choose not to pay for Twitter Blue will become less visible on the site. It's you got to pay to be seen. It may become harder for most users to discern real people from phony accounts. If check marks are removed from the accounts of celebrities who are unwilling to pay for Blue, like LeBron James, for example, it could become difficult to distinguish their accounts from impersonators. Mr. Musk has said only posts from paid accounts with blue checks will be visible in Twitter's For You tab, the default timeline of tweets that the platform shows you based on your interests. The only exception, he later said, will be posts from non-verified accounts that you already follow, which will continue showing up in your timeline. All of this means it's likely to become tougher to discover posts from accounts without the blue check marks. For example, if you follow lots of news about sports and a non-verified account tweets some sports-related news, you won't see it in your timeline unless you already follow that account. In the past, you may have found that content purely because it went viral. One caveat to these likely changes is that Mr. Musk is not known for always following through on his public intentions. So parts of the checkmark policy could change as Twitter rolls it out. Will people start paying for the check marks? That all depends on whether the account holder derives enough value from having a blue check mark to justify paying for it. Celebrities and institutions might choose not to pay because they already have large numbers of followers who will continue to see their posts. The New York Times, which has nearly 55 million followers on Twitter, said on Thursday that it would not pay for the verified badge for its institutional accounts, including at NY Times. The Times also told its journalists that it would not reimburse them for a Twitter Blue subscription, except in rare cases when it was necessary for reporting. It's not the New York Times is not reimbursing the $8 to their journalists. But other types of Twitter users may choose to pay for the check marks. Those include some small businesses that use Twitter to market their services and want their content to reach broader audiences. In this scenario, paying for verification will essentially be an advertising expense. Twitter is set to make some exceptions regarding which companies get to retain their check marks without paying. In an internal document, the company said it would let the 10,000 most followed organizations and the top 500 advertisers that have already been verified keep their status. So let's look up if LeBron is, what rank LeBron is. What Twitter rank is LeBron James with followers? Socialblade.com. It's going to show us something here. So let's see what they give us. If it will load. Oh, Social Blade is a whole different social media site. Okay. Got it. So at least it's on his Wikipedia site. It says that he is the 27th most followed. So if we can rely on New York Times as one of the 10,000 most followed organizations, and well, it's not really an organization, and its top 500 advertisers, they've already been verified to keep their status. All right, let's finish the article. Among social media companies such as Meta and Snap, Twitter is the smallest social network, and the company continues to shrink its size and relevance. Ooh, dang. Mr. Musk has shed much of Twitter's staff, leaving the company with fewer than 2,000 employees, down from 7,500 when he took over in October. The site still has problems with bots posting spam and imposter accounts impersonating public figures. Security issues, glitches, and bugs are piling up, and some influencers and journalists are migrated to other platforms, including Mastodon, LinkedIn, and Instagram. It's the end, y'all. All right, so LeBron James said he's not going over to, he's not paying. And I think he has the reputation of being one of the more frugal athletes. And is he the GOAT? Is he the GOAT of frugality? You guys let me know. But supposedly he doesn't pay for Pandora. He does Pandora with commercials. He won't pay for apps, among other things. So anyway, those are the questions that have come my way over the last couple of weeks. If you have questions you want me to respond to, feel free to send them my way. Send me a direct message. Send me a text message. Post it on this video, and I'll get back to it. But if nothing else, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.